Good day, moto friends, and welcome to another episode of MC Commute. On today's show, we've got right around 1,300 cc's of adventure bike. And if it's an adventure bike, how come it doesn't have knobbies on it? Well, that is a great question from the floor, and that's something that we will cover on the way to work here today. There are a lot of pieces of information around this bike, so I will do my level best to remember them all and answer your questions. But in the off chance that I don't, please do hit me up on social media at Zack Courts or leave a comment below this video and I'll do my best to answer your question. Okay, without further ado, KTM's 1290 Super Adventure S.
Okay, that is one large motorcycle. WP suspension, Brembo brakes, both of which are typical of a KTM, especially a full-size one. You got a 19-inch front wheel. What else? Yeah, you got that big honkin' V-twin and some orange bodywork. Again, all pretty KTM stuff. This luggage here is an option, does not come standard. As you can see, this box is taken up by the muffler in large part. The other side is quite a bit bigger. And these bad Nellies I think will run you about $1,200 from KTM. They work pretty well. I've been liking them, but if I was going to splurge, I'd probably get the Touratech ones, the big aluminum ones. Big alien headlight there. These guys down here are cornering lights that light up as you lean over. They work quite well. I think they're pretty good, especially for intersections in the city. All right. And here we go. We're ready to race, sort of, to work. Okay. Ready? I'm ready. Ooh, LED runners. This is a little eyebrow over the alien face. Let's do it. All right. So that big old V-twin, you got 1,301 cubic centimeters of displacement, 1,300 basically. And I will just start by getting right to the point with the engine. It is one of the best engines ever bolted to a motorcycle that I have ever used, ever. It's absolutely stupendous, and we will experiment with why as the commute goes on. Yeah, with the exception of maybe Aprilia's 1100cc V4, this thing is just, for a street bike, a complete masterpiece. Heated grips are on. I'm gonna shut those off. There's a cool little menu feature where you can do shortcuts. I'm gonna hit the up button and it takes me to heated grips, and I go to off, back, done dealio, no more heated grips. I would still prefer that the heated grip option were an actual switch on the handlebar, right? Like just click, click here or something. That would make the most sense, I think. First red light. The screen adjusts, which I might do later. You spin these little wheels here and it comes up. But since you guys are mounted on me chin, I'm gonna leave it down because I think your view might be a little bit better. Oh yeah, this was a question I got on Instagram, was about this little cubby here that has this little cubby on the side where you can put your phone, and there's a USB port so you can charge it. It's pretty cool. Someone asked what size phone fits in there. I think any size of iPhone does, but not the big iPhone with a case around it. Won't fit in there. The exact dimensions and exact size of your phone or your case, can't speak to exactly, but it's a pretty cool little feature. Especially cool, arguably, considering that the dash will connect to your phone. So you can charge it and you can get GPS information. You can also get you know, music or whatever you're listening to will come up on the dash if you connect your headset and your phone. It's not a perfect system, and I'm not going to try and go through it all as I ride because that wouldn't be very safe, I don't think. But what I can tell you is that it's a little bit finicky. In my experience, it works pretty well. You can adjust volume, you can pause your playlist, you can skip to the next track, and it shows you what's playing on the screen, which is pretty cool. But I don't know, I've still just been inclined to use my headset and my phone to get either turn-by-turn directions or just play the music and use the controls on the headset to skip track and change volume. But personal preference, I guess, and it's pretty cool that KTM does offer that connectivity. And I reckon as time goes on, it'll only get better. You know, this is the kind of thing that they're not perfect when these systems are new, in my experience, but as time goes on, they get a lot better. Now is usually where we talk about ergonomics, and I have to say, this bike for me at 6'2" and about 190 pounds is, yeah, I don't want to use the word perfect, but it's darn close. It's really comfortable. It's upright. It's exactly why any person, but especially someone who's tall, would buy an adventure bike, because it's just really, really nicely set up. There's plenty of leg room. You sit upright. You don't lean against the wind on account of the windshield. The seat feels a little stiff when you first sit down on it, but I've burned through a couple tanks of fuel on this thing, including some hour or two long stints on the freeway, and I haven't gotten a whiff of soreness. The one downside to the ergonomics of the 1290 Adventure S is that it is huge. It weighs 563 pounds, I think, 560 some odd pounds with a full tank. That's 6.1 gallons. And the seat height is quite tall. I don't remember the figure off the top of my head, and it doesn't matter all that much, frankly, because it's a little bit adjustable. The suspension is electronic, so you can adjust preload, which makes the seat practically go up and down. If you make the shock stiffer, it rises up. So yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail or complain too much about the seat being tall. I will just tell you that this is a very tall motorcycle. I am 6'2", and when I come to a red light like this, I cannot flat foot both feet. I can either stand on two tiptoes or I can flat foot on one side, which is usually what I decide to do. So that was throttle wide open away from that stoplight, and I went over that little rise in the front end, picked up, and then it set it back down, and then it accelerated with the front wheel a little bit off the ground. That is your wheelie control in action, and wheelie control is tied to traction control in this system, which is I guess you could say a little bit of a bummer. The good news is the menus are pretty easy to learn, and you can get to it pretty fast. So if you hit set on the dash here and you click on motorcycle, and then you go down to MTC and MSR, go to off, you hold it down, it says to keep pressed and close throttle, and eventually it will say release button, and when you do that, traction control and MSR is switched off. The good news is you can do that while you're riding, which is pretty cool. MSR is the motor slip regulation or something like that. It's something to do with the throttle butterflies when you're decelerating. It basically acts as a way to keep the rear tire from hopping when you decelerate. The Super Duke has MSR as well, and I've never really found it to be super useful or noticeable, frankly. I don't know. It's one of those things. But yeah, I guess if you have auto blip downshift, which this bike does, here we go. Third, second, first. Pretty cool auto blip downshift that this bike has, and it has a quick shifter when you're going up through the gears too, which you'll notice me using. But yeah, anyway, the MSR thing, I don't know, it's linked to TC anyway, so it's not like you can adjust it. It's just if you shut off TC and wheelie control, then you shut off the slip regulation as well. Another thing that I don't like about the traction control thing is that if you have traction control off, the cruise control does not work, which I don't really understand. Like, why? Like 10 years ago, no motorcycles had traction control, and everyone was pretty much okay. Traction control is a good safety feature, but if you're on a freeway and you're using cruise control, then do you really need traction control to save you from some wild slide that might happen? I don't know. Explain this to me if you would like. Oh my goodness. You can scratch the surface of the power of this engine on the street. You really can't, unless you're in the middle of nowhere somewhere and you are quite certain that Johnny Law won't catch you. but it is extremely powerful. It laid down about 130 horsepower at the wheel and somewhere between 85 and 90 foot-pounds of torque, I believe. But honestly, it feels even stronger than that. It does not have the same engine as the Super Duke, which was another question that I received on the Instagram. The Super Duke has titanium valves, I think, and a couple other little slices of performance thing that this engine does not have. But the bones are the same, and the character is very much the same, which is to say tons of torque. And if you get past the massive wave of torque, you will discover plenty of power in the top of the rev range also. Enough to do power wheelies in third gear. And you can clutch it up and forth if you want to, which is kind of insane. All right, out onto the freeway. As boring as freeways can be, this is really right in the 1290S's wheelhouse. I mean, this kind of cruising on the freeway is exactly what it was sort of designed to do, because they know this is what customers are going to do with it. I'm going to go in here and turn traction control back on so that I can utilize cruise control. So you flick it down once with your index finger and then tap it down, and here we go, cruising. It works really well. It tells you what it's set at, so you can adjust it in 1 mile an hour increments if you so choose. Yeah, and it's really I don't know, it's a great system. This is exactly how they all should be. Yeah, and then you can adjust the windscreen up, which I usually do because it protects me a little bit more from that wind blast. You mirror enthusiasts out there are probably wondering, but Zach, tell me about the mirrors. These are some of the best mirrors on any motorcycle. Extremely crisp and clear, even when the engine's flying along at you know, 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, whatever. Okay, cruise control disengaged. Gonna take it back into manual mode here. Put the screen down so you guys can see the lovely back end of that Ford Escape. So I mentioned before that this bike has a 19-inch front wheel, 17-19 rear to front, as opposed to some other adventure bikes which are 18-21, or at least have a 21-inch front wheel. KTM makes that bike, right? You guys probably know that already. 1290 Super Adventure R, which has a 21-inch front wheel. But this bike's arguably made for more of this, paved corners, which it handles quite well with stock Pirelli tires on it. It's really, really nice in a set of corners. Feels so much lighter than it actually is. The R is a little bit more aggressive, shorter windscreen, and just more for getting dirty. This bike's really more for sport touring, if you were to ask me. Even still, I'm gonna drop a link into the description of this video for Ari's first ride on the 1290R. He went down to Peru and rode around some dunes and stuff. It was pretty cool. So much on this bike is adjustable. Right now I'm going to go in and adjust the ABS. Regulars, MC commuters will know why I'm doing that. There are also 4 different ride modes, I think. We can go in there and look. Ride mode. Yeah, sport, street, rain, off-road. Yeah, there are so many dash options on this bike. I'm planning to do a dash video just describing what all goes on there and can be adjusted. But there are ride modes. There's adjustable ABS, there's adjustable damping in the suspension. I don't really do any of that stuff. I have the damping set to comfort, and I have the power mode, ride mode set to road most of the time, or street, or whatever it is. I find the fueling to be pretty perfect on this bike. Same goes with brake feel and the seat and the suspension. A lot of times with reviews like this, I'll pick apart that kind of stuff on a motorcycle, but with a bike like this, I mean, if you're paying $18,000, $20,000 for a motorcycle, frankly, I think that stuff should be correct. And in this case, it totally is. The fueling, the aerodynamics, the seat, the brakes, all that stuff, the mirrors, is really nicely set up, well tuned, and it should be. when you pay this amount of money. I've said it before and I will probably say it again. Well, since we're kind of getting to the end of the MC Commute here, I'm trying to think of all the things that I'm forgetting to tell you. Holy crap. Go slower, white Lexus. So yeah, you've got a power port here, which is pretty cool. You can plug stuff in. Let's see, what else we got? Can you back it in? Obviously, that's a question. You sure can. Which is pretty cool, especially for a bike this size. I will say one thing about the brakes. I could stand to have bigger rotors, I think. I don't know. The brakes are plenty powerful, but that little bit of bite that you get from a nice big rotor be something I would do. Definitely not necessarily a flaw of the bike, just my personal preference for vicious brakes. Look out, we got some wildlife in the road. There's a bobcat. Don't move too fast, it'll attack. So I guess this is the time we talk about price. In the case of the 1290 Super Adventure S, it is $17,999 as the base price, so $18,000, which is a lot for a motorcycle, but you know, not outside the realm of reason for this category. It's cheaper than its arguable main rival, which is the Multistrada 1260. Big old tractor. So yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's also an awful lot of motorcycle, I have to say. My last little complaint about this bike is the way that it sounds. I think it sounds good. Light flywheel, quick to rev, very KTM, which I think is bitchin'. I just wish it sounded a little bit burlier. I mean, this is one of the most impressive, incredible, just cosmically powerful engines that you can purchase in a motorcycle, and it just sounds a little tinny. But of course you can get a pipe, among many other things in the KTM catalog. Geez, yeah, let's see. What other questions did you guys have? I'm gonna look up your questions, because I saved them all. Would I pick this over a Multistrada 1260? Yeah, probably. Can I flat foot it? Covered it. Responsiveness as compared to a GS 1200? Comparable, although I think at low speed a GS is better. You rave about the Versa 650. Is the extra horsepower and the extra money worth it to get the KTM? Totally different category. Truthfully, a Versus can do almost everything this bike can do. It just won't be as exciting. Can you back it in? Covered it. Can it wheelie? Yeah, it can. We covered that. Can you fit a full face helmet in the saddlebags? Yep, you can. Cruise control, covered it. Would I buy a GT instead of one of these? Personally, no, because I think this is more comfortable. I'd either get a Super Duke or this. Fun factor, yes, very high. Let's see, what else? What's it like as a daily? Commuter? Yeah, we just did a Commute. It was great. Vibrations on the highway? None. It just pulses like it should. Third gear power wheelies? Yes. What if I'm 5'8"? Ugh. You better be real good at riding a motorcycle if you're 5'8", because it's huge. Why didn't they put shaft drive on it? I don't know. What am I, a KTM designer? Yeah, chains are just KTM's thing. That's a whole another step of engineering. If you need a shaft drive, you can get an R1200 GS, which is also a terrific motorcycle. So there's your good news there. Anyway, like I said, I really don't know if I could possibly answer all the questions you guys have, but I really tried. I hope you're satisfied. If not, then put a question at the bottom of this video and I'll answer it. Or at least I'll try. Until next time, that was the KTM 1290 Super Adventure S from home to office. See you guys next time. Thanks for riding along.